Yes! 1 HP, baby! Woo! I'll take that. Yo, what's up everyone? Kyrios here, and today we're going to talk about Total Assault. I had a blast doing this on stream the other night. It really does push your students to the limit. It was a ton of fun to theorize and figure out how to get very hard mode done. Now I'm going to break up the video down below, and we're going to talk about many different sections, but we'll talk about team compositions, essentially what the boss does, and some key indicators that you should know. And then we will talk about like who you should focus on. And then at the end of the video, I'll show my gameplay of taking down very hard mode. Now, I think most people can at least do normal and in hard mode. Very hard mode really does push your characters to the limit at the current level that most people are. And I don't think, and then I think there's very few amount of people that are doing hardcore mode. And I don't know what that is, so like I don't even know how that person did it. Maybe they're better than me. So anyways, let's kick off the video. All right, let's talk about the boss in general and the mechanics real quick. So starting from the top, we'll see that you have a health bar just like every other boss in the game. This health bar is indicated by many different layers, and in this case it's 20 layers, defined by the amount of HP depending on what mode you're in. Underneath the HP bar, you will find the stun meter. This is very, very important that you fill this up as quickly as possible, as much as possible. You can do this by using the correct synergy against the boss. Since the boss is heavy, you would use a lot of piercing, and every piercing hit would increase that bar. Whenever the bar fills, the boss stuns for a little bit, takes a little extra damage, but then stops from attacking and doing ultimate abilities. In the right-hand side of the HP bar, you'll see 3 bubbles or squares or whatever you want to call those. As they fill up and they get full, this is what defines the boss from doing different ultimate abilities. Now, these ultimate abilities change depending on what zone you're in. You're in zone 1, 2, or 3, and they get more powerful as you go through the zones. Zone 1, you won't really see a ultimate ability except for maybe in hardcore mode. Zone 2, you will see an AoE that is done maybe once, maybe twice if you're not fast enough. In zone 3, you will see a ton of AoE as that thing starts to ramp up how fast it charges. Now, why is that important? Quickly, if you think about the boss in 3 different zones, zone 1, 2, and 3, your primary team should be consistent of a lot of DPS and a lot less healing on your first team, because you're going to be mainly in that zone 1 and zone 2, where you just pump out a lot of damage, where he's not doing a ton of AoE. Now, if you have to flip in a second team to get very hard mode done, or even hard mode done, and definitely hardcore mode, you're going to want to think about that second team. That second team is going to need to be a little bit more beefy, a little bit more sustainable, because there's going to be a lot of AoE that's going off. So you're going to need to put in healers like Ayana and some other supports that really try to keep your team alive. All right, let's talk about positioning real quick. Now, this is very key. Now, in each zone, you want to make sure that your tank is in the correct position. Your DPS are in the proper cover. This is going to stop the amount of AoE that hits the rest of your team, and then it only hits your tank or the units that you need to have hit by those abilities. So in order to do that, we need to organize our composition or our positioning before we go into battle. So here you see the positioning that you would use for zone 1 and 2. You want to make sure the tank is all the way to the left so that the tank actually will properly go to the correct position to take all that AoE aggro away from the rest of your team. Now, this is what I use for positioning too. Now, so this is me personally. I like to have it so that the correct characters or students are on the right side. You have one up front to the right, you have the tank in the middle, and you have your 2 DPS or supporters kind of close together. Now, there's different ways that you can actually slice this final team for zone 3, but for me, having them closer together for some more AoE that just barely misses the AoE of the dragon works out perfectly for me. But I highly suggest that you experiment with it and try it yourself. All right, let's break down this team composition for going into the raid. So for the first mode, we're going to talk about normal mode. And really, this one's pretty straightforward. Bring in whatever tank you got. You can even use Yuudai as a tank, the turret. It actually does work. Funny enough, really funny. You should try it out. For DPS, just bring all the highest DPS you have. Assuming that you're level 10 or 15 or 20 or whatever level you are, you should be able to just slap this boss into the ground. All right, for the second mode, hard mode, you're going to want to start with Hoshino as your primary tank if you have her. Ideally, you do. And then you're going to just want to use your highest level DPS that are ideally piercing. That could be Iori, that can be Junko, that can be Nonami, it could be a whole bunch of others, and just slap them in there. Ideally, bringing Akane here would be really good for the defense break. And depending on how high your damage is, what level you are, if you're level 20, 25, 28, something around there, maybe level 30, 35, you can probably get away with not bringing a healer. But if you are lower level, I highly suggest you bring Serena as your primary healer, and then whatever healer you have for your second team. All right, for very hard mode, this is where things get very tricky, right? If you don't have a lot of the 3 stars and a lot of the 2 stars, it's going to be very hard to make two teams. So you're going to have to plug and play a little bit, especially on your second team. You'll probably have to plug in some explosion characters. That's not really ideal, but plug in as many piercing as you can for that second team. But for your primary team, ideally it would be Hoshino, Iori, Nonami, Akane for the defense break, and Serena for the healing. Now, ideally for the first team also, you would have maybe Karin in there, and that's about it. I think that's all the spots. For your second team, you're going to want to make up a lot of those characters you see there. You're going to want Junko, you're going to want Binah, you're going to want to fit in as many as you can. You're going to want to put Tsubaki because she can survive a lot longer on those AoE attacks. And then you're going to want to put some AoE healing in there to just try and keep them alive. You'll see I put Shimiko and an AoE healer in just to try and keep my DPS alive. And now, as a quick tip, if you put Binah and Junko as your secondary team, they have a get out of jail card free where they can essentially take one hit that was going to kill them and keep them alive for some extra DPS. All right, let's talk character priority here. Now, you can't level up everyone. You're not going to have the resources, and nor should you fully invest in everyone, I should say. Now, you're going to need to level everyone up as much as you can to an extent to really start pushing those damage numbers. But you don't really need to focus on the EX skills of a lot of these characters or on the skills in general to really pump the damage. What you really need to do is make sure that you are properly upgrading the top slot of equipment for as many characters as possible or students as possible on your teams. Now, this is really going to push their damage numbers up through the roof. And it's going to allow you to do more damage. Now, looking at some of the damage numbers I was able to do, I was fully invested into Iori, which is probably the one character I do suggest that you fully invest in skills-wise and EX-wise and everything-wise, because she's just going to do a ton more damage. Now, if you don't have Iori and your primary DPS is, say, Junko, that's probably what you're going to have to do is fully invest into Junko to try and start pumping those damage numbers. But going from the left to the right here of the teams I used and kind of just talking about them briefly, Hoshino, as many levels as many character levels as you can give her, no skill levels required. Nomi, same thing, as many levels as you can give her, no skill levels really required. Iori, as much of everything as you can throw at her. Throw it. Everything. Akane, same thing. Give her some levels, but she doesn't have to be fully leveled up. So level her probably 5 levels below the rest of your characters if you're running low on EXP materials. And you don't have to skill up there as well. Karin, fully skill up as much as possible and fully level as much as possible if you have her. Serena, fully level as much as possible because her stats do go to your damage team and the striker team. And then for her skills, obviously healing is better and healing is good. All right, going on to the second team here. You can see this team is obviously super scuffed. It's a miracle I even did 5 bars of damage on very hard. Most of these characters are not leveled up except for Tsubaki. I would fully level Tsubaki as much as possible because you're going to use her all over the place. Junko, Samire, Pina, Shimoku, and I didn't use Hanae. I actually subbed in a different healer. They're really just not leveled. You can see by this screenshot here that like the only one that's leveled here is Tsubaki, and everyone else is way under my actual level, which was 39 at the time. So use your judgment, right? Plug and play your second team to really just top off. You need a little extra damage, give them a little levels. You give them a little bit more equipment. Do this, do that, but don't go overboard on your second team. Really focus on your first primary team. All right, guys, this is where I'm really going to sign off here, but like and subscribe. Come follow me on twitch.tv, all that goodness. I'm going to show the gameplay I did of very hard mode. It's going to show both my teams in action. So feel free to just sign out here or take a gander if you just want to see how I did it. So I appreciate everyone, and I'll see you guys on the next video.